All right. So we had that. We had that huge event happening over there at Cotton Bowl. But the one that all the eyes were fixated on, it was the King of the Hill. The King of the Hill there at Boothill Speedway. And it all set itself up, and you had the best of the best getting out there in the factory stocks. King of the Hill for the second time. And he's on the hotline here tonight. Let's welcome in the freshly crowned King of the Hill, my man, Neil Kemp. Neil, man, have you spent all that money yet, my friend?
Almost. I got about $5 left.
That's about the way that works. So, Kemp, tell me about it, man. The whole weekend right there for you. I mean, on the pole, you were obviously, you got, like I said, the best of the best right there. But for you, it just looked like everything on that 20 was hooked up and ready to go this weekend.
Yeah, it was fast. I've made a bunch of changes on it, and definitely in the right direction. And I didn't expect to be that much better with those tires, but the track was so clean, and when even if it's slick and got marbles, I feel like the KK704s are good. But when it's so clean and nothing to grab a hold of, I just feel like 2 more inches of tire on the racetrack is definitely better than the 8-inch tire. So that was my gamble.
What was I saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So other than just the normal completely tear the damn car apart after you win, did they do the same thing in Tech this year where you got to spend all that money to build the car back together?
Pretty much. This time the engine actually stayed in the car. Last time we took the engine out and took the oil pan off, but he just made me pull the inspection plug this time, but we pulled ahead. And I remember last time he pulled a valve out of the head. He didn't this time. And but they disassembled my transmission. When I say disassembled, there wasn't a piece left in it. Damn. Which one of the tech guys is a transmission man, and he might have been taking some notes. So kind of the way I feel about that.
Yeah, no.
But you read the rules in the factory stock rule book, and there's hardly anything about the transmission, and it's kind of wide open almost. And but it's basically a stock transmission. So matter of fact, the other tech man was talking about how OEM it was. So
oh, that's awesome. I do want to ask you, Neil, you mentioned about the tires right there, and to me this year when they're like, okay, the KKs or whatever, to me that kind of went away from the whole basis of what to me drives this class. I mean getting those pull-offs, and man, if I was going to race, I want a big old 10-inch slick. I mean, to me, the thoughts on that. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I mean, I get it. I mean, I totally get it, the way everything progresses. But, man, for you to get out there and kick their asses on the slicks, man, that was – Owen Pittman and I were sitting in the bar at South Texas Race Ranch, and we're like, this dude's going to win on the slicks, man. Is that the most gratifying part of winning this thing for you?
It really was, because honestly, I didn't know. I went to Vivian the week before and won, and it was the same way. My lap times were, I think, 3 or 4 tenths faster than the rest of the field, and it was clean and slick there, and took rubber late there too. So I knew if I could get through the first heat without. I knew, for one, if I drew in the front of the first heat, I would be really good, because at Boothill, it's kind of narrow in the heat races, like the first round heats anyways. When it's got moisture, it's just kind of narrow, So I just kind of stayed in the way, I felt like. And Colin Hodges, he actually poked his nose under me several laps, and I held on to second. So then that second heat race, man, that's when I knew I had a really good hot rod, because I was literally riding around quarter throttle not to run over these guys, and was still getting into some of them, So, it was very good. Which, I mean, I'd like to. I'm gonna go sometime soon with the KK704s, because, like I said, I've made changes on my car too that I haven't raced with the KK704s yet since I've made these changes, and so I'm curious,
So, Neil, one of the things we were talking about before you came on is that the cars, right, that you guys race, these factory stocks, are very Arclitect centered, right? They're really big here in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, a little bit into Oklahoma. Is it as a guy that races it and wins the big money races with this, is it a unique formula for you guys, or do you think it's something that maybe somebody needs to take and start running these things in Georgia or over in California or in the upper Midwest now? Because I mean, you guys are pulling a hell of a lot of cars for a hell of a lot of good purse that a lot of classes around the country would be they'd have their mouth open, drooling over the purse that you guys race for this weekend.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that you don't get more guys like in the northern part of Arkansas that's, or even up in Oklahoma, or, there's plenty of guys in Oklahoma that have these factory stocks that don't come down here. And, I go to Tri-State sometimes and they'll have 20 cars on a regular night and none of them will come down here. So it's kind of mind blowing, which, hey, maybe they don't want to go through that strict tech. I don't know. It's crazy. I've had some guys or some buddies of mine that's built these cars from North Arkansas and come down and raced. And man, this is just tell you how tough this class is. A guy named Tony Anglin is, in my opinion, one of the best in dirt street stocks ever. And, he built one of these cars brand new and, he struggled, he bought a brand new Outlaw and everything and struggled with it and, finally sold it. So, it's a whole different kind of, I guess you call setup. I mean, you got to drive them different. It's not, you definitely don't throw them in the corner and hope it sticks, because it ain't going to stick. These cars just don't have no stick to them the way they make us run our springs and all that. So, especially on the slicks, it's almost like you're riding around on ice nonstop until it takes some rubber.
Yeah. And Neil, talk about that part, because I was talking about that earlier. We're sitting there watching this, and that racetrack, it looked like ice. And I mean, you guys were sitting out there racing, and I was talking to my dad yesterday, and he's like, "So is that a good track?" And I'm like, "Well, for Neil Kemp, it was." I mean, I don't exactly know. So talk about the surface right there. I mean, watching you guys, I mean, the cushion obviously was up there. Nobody was going up there, but talk about that part right there, because I know it got a little racy right there at the end after the last caution flag, but man, you were just sitting there and pointing that car and just diving it off the corner, and nobody had anything for you.
I think at that time it was just the difference in the tires. I mean, it was as slick as it gets, early. And I'd say about 10 to 12 to go, it really started taking some rubber, and everybody started getting fast. So, even you mentioned the cushion there. Really wasn't that much of a cushion. And what it is, it was so far up that it was in the flat part of the track. So, you hit it with the right rear, and it's almost like you're back going downhill, and which is not a good thing. Yeah. But other than that racetrack was as good as it gets. And I mean, I like those kind of racetracks anyways, no matter what tire you're on, because I'm just not a hold it on the floor and hope it sticks kind of guy. I like it slow and slick and a lot of finessing, I guess you'd say.
That's badass.
So, have you cleared out a spot in the shop? Are you going to keep that big trophy in the house? I mean, have you figured out where you're going to put it yet, or are you just kind of carrying it around from room to room as you walk around the house?
You'll probably laugh at me, but that thing's still in my motorhome, and I've not even taken it out of there. And actually, Bubba Jones dropped it or broke it or something carrying it to Victory Lane the other night and knocked something off the top of it. I had to talk to Owen earlier about whatever to put on the top of it so the crown spins or something. But I've not even plugged it in and checked it out. Owen sent me the video of it, and it's a very, very nice trophy.
Yeah. Well, that's the funniest part, Neil. I want to tell you this because I was sitting there, like I said, watching the race with Owen. So you go in, they pull that trophy out, and he's like, I hope somebody tells him the crown comes off. So how cool was that? I mean, to pull that thing off, put it on your head. I mean, and I love your Victory Lane celebration. I mean, that's how you do it right there, man. Because you've won one of the baddest ass races in the country, man. That had to be so exciting, and you did it again. I mean, it's not that you did it; you did it again. That's you're in good company right there.
Yeah, it was awesome. I ain't gonna say it was as awesome as 2020. Just from I literally had to race a C main in 2020,
Yeah.
and a B and A. And I don't know. I just had to pass a ton of cars that year, and this year here it was kind of like just get out and cruise, you know, and you know, when I realized I was a pretty good ways ahead, I knew I could just ride and cruise. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's still exciting for sure, but nothing's ever exciting as passing cars, and then, you know, especially passing with under 10 to go to
That's
win
right.
$10,000.
That's
So.
right. That's right. That's always a good part.
So now,
Oh, yeah.
now you got the bigger one. What's next? I mean, obviously, other than putting it back together, I mean, you got any other big races circled on the calendar already? Or are you just going to take it easy? What's up next for the big money man here?
Man, that's a good question, really. I'd like to go to the Street Stock Nationals, not this weekend. I think not next weekend, maybe, but the next, and I think it's the 16th of August or something like that. But I'd have to change motors, which, I mean, my motor would be legal down there, but it wouldn't be enough, I don't think. And they can run the Vortec heads, and they're a little bit more open. And I got a buddy that told me to come get his and stick it in there and go. And then you got to buy the H500 tires. So, and it's only 3,000 to win, but it's kind of one of them bucket list deals.
Yeah.
But and then I think that Tri-State's having 1,000 to win this weekend, but I'm gonna have to thrash if I want to make that one. And it's hot, and I was looking at the weather earlier up there, and the high was like 107 on Saturday, and that's just not interesting at all. So
No.
I've got a lot of work to catch up on, and we're remodeling the house right now, and so a lot going on. So I may take a few weeks off, and then that makeup race at Vivian's coming up, and it's 7,000 to win on any tire but the slicks, and that 12,000 to win on the slicks. And I was on slicks there too, so I think I was one of the only ones at the top 20 in passing points on that deal. So
Yeah. No doubt.
feel like I got a decent shot at that. So.
Yeah. Lastly, man, talk about Club 20. I mean, that's a whole thing right there. You talk about work and all this stuff. You got a lot of customers, and you've got folks that want you working on their race cars. I mean, talk about that part for you, man. It's a nonstop job, and still you find time to be the king of the hill once again.
Yeah, it's actually been really busy the last few months, and I've had quite a few guys bring me their cars, and you know, that's an all day job sometimes. Most of the time, you know, you got to mount lead and set front ends, and you find a bunch of bent parts, and you know, you gotta change it all. It ain't leaving unless it's right, you know. So
that's right.
But yeah, I'm covered up on shocks right now, and man, that's why I'm actually in here right now, still making a order list. So I can email it in the morning.
Yeah.
So
Neil's like, y'all need to let me go. I got work to do.
Yeah. It's been fun. I gotta go, y'all.
No, man, I totally get it. Super sweet win right there. You beat the best of the best, and man, it was a stacked field. You had them all right there, and you did. You dominated the weekend, and congratulations, man, on getting another one. And man, we'll do this again soon, and talk about the next time you go out there and just thrash everybody, my brother.
Dude, I hope that happens a lot more often.
I'm sure it will. I am sure it will. Man, thank you for the time. Congratulations. Enjoy that last $10 that you have left after that, and just keep doing it, brother. Proud of what you did.
I sure appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You bet, man. Take care.
All right.
You bet.
All right.
There he goes. Neil Kemp. And it really was. I mean, no offense to anybody in that field. Sitting there watching the whole weekend, and you know, when it came down to him and Justin on the front row, it's like,
you knew that race was going to be special when those two ended up on the front row.
Well,
like, here we go. Two. It's like one A and
best.
One. What is it?
Yeah.
1A and one.
Yeah.
Number one, and then number 1A. You know, basically the best. Like I said, best of the best is the easiest way to describe it.
It does not get better than having those two on the front row, and they were dominant throughout that race. And even when that final caution came out, it's like, you know, I thought, I mean, Neil had him covered. I mean, he did. But I'll tell you one thing, Whitehead at the end of that race, man, he was coming. He did everything he could to try to come and chase him down, but it just wasn't going to happen. I mean, Kemp was way too good this weekend.
Yeah, no, he was on a rail. Which is really surprising on the slicks. Like it's surprising at how well that's actually worked out. That was a hell of an experiment, especially when they said that race at Vivian coming up with the pays $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 more to win on a slick than it does on the other tires. It's like, man, it's like, well, you know, is that the magic formula? It sounds like that's the magic formula because he took on 10 grand there. I think he's definitely going to have it all back together to go back for 12.
Well, and I think that's one thing that kind of what Kemp was talking about right there. I mean, I totally get the racing tire with the KK tire. I mean, I totally get that. But to me, I would rather take this as you want it. I would rather have 2 more inches.
Well, everybody wants 2 more.
That's what she said. I mean, seriously. I mean, to me, I would love to have that big old fat tire. And the whole thing is because I was talking to someone over the weekend after the Corpus race because we were talking about the slick versus whatever. And it's like, well, you know, it's you know, they're running not a retreaded tire, but it's a pull-off. They're running a pull-off.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that an advantage? I'm like, if they were on pavement, maybe it's a disadvantage. But they're not on pavement.
Mm-hmm.
They're not on pavement. You get in there and you lower that air pressure down and you sit that car down. And here's the difference. If this was a modified or a sport mod or limited modified, whatever you want to call it, I would think that maybe it would be a disadvantage. But this big old heavy stock car, you lay this thing down with stock suspension, and it's just going to do whatever it has to do, and you're running that tire pressure low. Yeah, give me 2 inches. I want the 2 inches. That.
But does this open up a can of worms for these cars? Does that take away the affordability? We always talked about the guys that said the reason I run this over a stock car or a street stock, whatever everything else is, because I can buy a pull-off for pennies on the dollar.
Well,
now you got these guys racing these expensive-ass 10-inch slicks.
Well,
like, you know,
and I think that's the whole problem. And I think that's why this whole King of the Hill was so important that Neil came out.